Hi, I'm Aman Soni, and I'm a faculty for UPSC Civil Service exam, and I'm taking Indian economy for the last 13 years. I've been teaching at reputed institutions in Delhi and Hyderabad. Hyderabad, I'm associated with La Excellence. Delhi, I'm working with Subramanian IAS, Forum IAS, and ALS. Today, here I'll be discussing with you the strategy for the subject Indian economy. So, I'll be telling you which chapters are important for pre and mains, and I'll be also giving you an overview of the syllabus and how to approach them. So, if we talk about the exam, if I talk about the syllabus, I would say the first chapter it comes is national income. So, this chapter, national income, in this chapter we discuss about the topics like GDP, GNP, GDP-MP, GNP-MP. What is purchasing power parity? What is green GDP? Drawbacks of GDP, right? What are the limitations of GDP? Uh, Items not included under GDP. So all these terms we will be discussing. This is a very technical chapter, I would say, and this chapter is very important for pre and mains both. Earlier, this chapter was important only for pre, but in the last 5 years, the questions coming for the mains exam have also increased. So you should be focusing on this chapter from pre and mains perspective both. Second chapter is economic development and inclusive growth. Now, this chapter, in this chapter, we'll be discussing the difference between economic growth and economic development, and we'll be also discussing all those indices through which we can calculate, the economic development. I would say. So we'll be discussing topics like what is Human Development Index, Global Hunger Index, Gender Inequality Index, Gross National Happiness. These indices we'll be doing. We'll be also doing a very important topic, which is inclusive growth. Now, no one is going to ask you in the prelims about these indices, about inclusive growth. Even in mains, they won't be asking anything about these indices, the dimensions and all. What's more important is the data of these indices is very important. Data in the sense like in which index, how much is India's rank? What are the dimensions of various indices? The various factors on which an index depends, all those things we need to discuss. What has been progress of India's index in the last 30 years? Because all this data is very important for the mains perspective. It will be helping us write better data, better answers in the mains exam. The topic of inclusive growth. This topic is very important for the mains exam. Every year you would get at least one question from inclusive growth. So this topic of inclusive growth is very important. I would say for mains perspective, for prelims it's not that important. Next chapter will be fiscal policy. The fiscal policy actually tells about government's budget. So fiscal policy chapter will be discussing about government's budget, revenue expenditure, capital expenditure, fiscal deficit, FRBM Act, public debt, finance commission, all these things. Fiscal policy chapter is important for pre and mains both. Rather, in the year 2025, 3 questions came from the chapter of fiscal policy. So this chapter will be the concepts part you will be doing from prelims point of view. For mains, importance is that year's budget. So whatever is coming in, and suppose you are appearing in 2026. So whatever is coming in the budget of 2026, you should be doing it very properly, very thoroughly for the exam of 2026. This chapter, fiscal policy, is important for pre and mains both. Next chapter will be balance of payments. One of the most important chapters for the prelims perspective, not that important for the mains perspective. In this chapter, we discuss what is current account deficit, balance of payment surplus, FDI, FPI difference, then multiple type of exchange rates, masala bonds, fixed exchange rate, floating exchange rate, managed floating exchange rate, masala bonds. Very important for the prelims. Next chapter will be monetary policy. So here we discuss about topics like what is repo rate, reverse repo rate, SLR, CRR, monetary policy transmission. This chapter again very important for prelims perspective. In the mains exam, not a single question has been asked in the last 12 years. So when you will be doing prelims, do this chapter properly. When you are doing mains, you may even skip it. No big deal. Right? Next chapter will be taxation. So taxation will discuss about multiple technical terms. Tax elasticity, tax buoyancy, progressive taxation, regressive taxation, GST, BEPS, Hawala, shell companies, tax havens. All these things we'll be discussing. Taxation is very, very important for prelims perspective. But from mains, not a single question has come from this chapter in the last 12 years. So be very, very judicious if you study taxation for the mains exam. Next chapter, it will be inflation. Very, very technical subject, very, very technical topic, I would say. And the last 12 years, a lot of questions have come from the inflation chapter in the prelims exam, nothing in the mains. We'll be discussing concepts like what is WPI, CPI, GDP deflator, difference between CPI, WPI, inflation, all these things. Okay. Next chapter would be banking. Monetary policy is different from banking. When I say monetary policy, we discuss only about the interest rates. When I say banking, we discuss about financial institutions. What are banks? Types of banks, RRBs, cooperatives, then small finance banks, payment banks. We discuss about NBFCs, right? We also discuss about why there have been so many NPAs with the banks in the last 1 decade. Mechanism to counter those NPAs, like what is insolvency, bankruptcy code, it's a bad bank. So these things we discuss in the banking chapter. Very, very important for prelims. Not that important for mains. Alright. Next chapter, money market, capital market. This chapter has gained a lot of prominence in the last 5 years. 2013 to 2020, not a single question came from this chapter in the prelims exam. But in the last 4 or 5 years, every year this chapter is giving 3-4 questions. So hence, very, very important for prelims. But mains, not a single question has come in the mains exam in the last 12 years. We won't be studying this for the mains exam. Next. So till this, it was more of prelims basis. Next chapter would be WTO and IMF. These chapters are very, very important for the mains exam. But they're important for mains only when something happens with them in the current affairs. Otherwise, as a static part, nothing would come. But if they're in news, questions would surely come. Topics like MFN, protectionism, national treatment, agreement on agriculture, Doha round, conditionalities of IMF, criticism of WTO, criticism of IMF. These topics are very, very important. Next chapter is land reforms. So this chapter is very, very important for the mains. Nothing would come in the prelims. But for the mains, it's very important. Every year we would get at least one question. We'll discuss topics like why land reforms in India were successful, why land reforms in India were not successful, and what are the current land reforms which can be carried out. Next chapter would be food processing industries. Extremely important chapter for the mains exam. You would get at least one question every year. So do this chapter, food processing industry, scope of FPIs in India, significance, challenges, government initiatives, do them properly. Alright, then next chapter would be agriculture. Agriculture is the most important chapter for the complete economy subject. Every year we would get 4 questions at least. Topics like irrigation, cropping pattern, e-technology for benefit of farmers, animal rearing, PDS, agriculture marketing, National Food Security Act. Extremely important for the mains perspective, not that important for prelims. In prelims, it would come, but from current updates, but in the mains, even static part would come. The most important topic for the mains exam. If I talk about next chapter, it will be industries, infrastructure, and investment models. So investment models, topics like build, operate, transfer model, BOT, BOT toll, BOT annuity, hybrid annuity model. Very important for mains perspective, nothing as such for the prelims. Next chapter, industries and infrastructure. Topics like ports, airport, railway stations, power plants. Industries like what is PLI scheme, focus on MSMEs. So a very important chapter for pre and mains both, industries and infrastructure. Last, we talk about human resource development, where we talk about unemployment and poverty. These are very, very important for the mains perspective, not that important for prelims perspective. All right. So unemployment would give questions in mains, sometimes even may give in prelims, but predominantly it is mains. So this is the overall overview of the syllabus. These are the chapters which we need to discuss, the topics which we need to discuss, right? If we talk about importance of the subject, in prelims, the subject would give us 15 to 20 questions every year. In mains, it would give us 9 to 10 questions. So the importance is, if you do the subject properly, if you have conceptual clarity, out of those 15 questions, you would surely get 80% correct. It won't happen that you do the syllabus and you make wrong options correct. No, it won't happen. The return on investment is very high in terms of economics. You spend time on it, you will get the results. Same goes with mains. The questions would come from specific parts only. They won't be asked from anywhere or say anything under the sun. Specific subjects is given, specific topics are given. Questions would be coming from that topic only. If you want to have any clarity on economics, you can follow me. You can follow me on YouTube. You can follow me on Insta. I'm Aman Soni. You can Google me. You'll find me out. All right. Thanks.